So, writing the nearly perfect hip or hype review is a little bit challenging only because there's not really a formula in how you're going to write it. But for those of us who like having a little bit of a guidance or formula, I've made this. And so you don't have to use it, but it's just here for those people who might need just a little bit more, like I said, guidance. So, if I were writing my nearly perfect hip or hype review, I might use my first 50 words to do my opening. And when I do an opening, I use the opening to draw the reader in. And that might be that I might want to paint a picture of a situation that we can all relate to. So I might paint a picture of us, thinking like if I have to go to Chick-fil-A, how busy it is, or if I'm thinking about like what's the most perfect place I could go for my daddy-daughter date, where would it be? Something that we can maybe relate to in some way. Or you might thrust us right into an exciting moment that vividly captures the topic of the review. I might just try to paint a picture of a Beatles documentary that I watched on Disney Plus over Christmas, and just kind of paint that picture for you. Something that kind of just brings us into the topic. You can also present a problem. You can present a problem to the reader that eventually you're going to solve with your review, or you kind of build up this expectation of something that ultimately is a letdown. But the opening really has to be attention grabbing. So really take your time to think about what would be the coolest way to really start this review, because it sets the tone. If it's going to be a hype review and you're really going to bash something, I should feel that I should almost be built up to this letdown. I should maybe hear some sarcasm, something in the very beginning. If it's going to be something where you're going to really praise something, like get me jazzed up from the very beginning of this review. The next 50 words, or approximately 50 words, is really where I introduce the topic itself. Like I then, after I've kind of painted the picture, I've drawn the reader in, the next 50 words is I want to give the reader, here is the topic of this thing. And I want to make sure I clearly state the topic of my review. Um, Very specific with the name, any relevant details, just to help the reader also experience this. If I wanted the reader to go out and to experience something, I want to make sure they get all the details. So before I get into the nitty gritty of it all, I want to give just simply like the basic bare bones. Here's what you need to know if you want to experience it too, kind of facts. So this could be a venue, it could be a location, it could be a price, it could be where you also can purchase this item, or where you can also see this, or this YouTuber or this film or this TV series you want to review, whatever it is. But once again, give us some basics here. All right. And then once I kind of get the basics down, then as a reviewer, now I can go into the details. So now what I've done is I've kind of pulled the reader in. I've said, hey, here it is. And now let me go into the details. So once again, if I was going to do my Beatles documentary, I might, paint a picture of what it was like, like painting this picture at the very beginning, getting Beatle fans really pumped, and then saying, hey, it's available on Disney Plus. It's over 3 different episodes. It's over 6 hours long. And then here's how you can watch it on Disney Plus. And now I'm going to go into the nitty gritty. So if I was going to do my piece on McDonald's, once again, I might paint a picture of, Chick-fil-A, its popularity, its long lines, all the wait. And is there something better? Are we overlooking something? And all of a sudden, yeah, we're overlooking McDonald's in Willow Street. Kind of understated and humdrum, but it's kind of a cool place to go. And then I kind of tell you where it is, and then I go into my details. So the next 175 words, this is the main point of my review, is this nitty gritty details. This is where I want to now. It says no, you explain. So it should say now you explain. I'm going to fix that right now. So now you explain exactly why it's hip, or here we go, why it is hype. Why is it lousy, or why is it awesome? All right. So this is where you're going to persuade the reader with logical reasoning or your emotional appeals. You also need to connect with the reader all throughout the essay. So find ways of connecting and being down to earth, and just being like the reader. That's your ethos. But I don't want you to think of it as like individual paragraphs for each. Like I don't want a logos paragraph or a pathos paragraph or an ethos paragraph. Just simply write honestly. Just review this thing honestly. And the different appeals will make sense at different times. There'll be places where you'll want to be logical. There'll be places where you want to be emotional. There'll be places where you're just simply you, and that's your voice. But just review it naturally. All right. And then lastly, my last 74 and a half words approximately are going to be my broader point. Now, this is the hardest part of the whole thing. And this is probably the easiest part of the whole essay that could flop. So we flop and we fail at this when we try too hard to be preachy, or this whole thing fails when it's like a real severe leap between the review and the broader point. You're like, oh, that was a big leap here. We're just trying to be natural with it. We're just trying to naturally arrive at this last paragraph where you make an insightful point. You say, like, yeah, I'm reviewing this sneaker, but I'm also making a comment about how we sometimes need to pay more for quality in life. All right. So, whatever it is. So, I'm going to arrive at the end of my McDonald's review and talking about just to be like, it is about, I mean, the food's the food, but ultimately it's about something bigger than that. And so, I'm going to kind of ease into my broader point. If I was going to review my Beatles documentary, I might arrive at a point of saying, you know what? What's really cool about all this was that I think it brought to life, you know, not just simply old Beatle fans, but I think it also inspired some new Beatle fans. And I think it's just neat to see how music is made in front of us. The realizing that there are some real talented people in the past, but also in the present, who are really making some great things. And I think it's just neat that we see that and really appreciate musicians, people who actually wrote their own music and play their own music and all that. And I think that really brought that to life. And I think sometimes we miss out on that. And so I don't know. I'm just making this up as I talk right now, but try to find a broader point that kind of still ties into the review. So it's not disjointed, but still reaches something a little bigger than the actual review itself or the topic of the review itself. So once again, there's not really any set formula, but if you're looking for some guidance, once again, these are just approximations to kind of say, hey, I don't want to get too wrapped up in one small part. Like you don't want to spend 100 words on an intro. So I try to give myself just a little bit of benchmarks so I can fit this whole thing into 349 and a half words. And I think my math should add up to that. Anyway, so have fun working on your review. Look at some examples if you need to. Obviously, the examples online not always are the same assignment that you have, but they're assignments that have worked in the past, and you just kind of get a feel for like, okay, those seem to be successful, and see what you can do with it. That's all.